Liberal leader Justin Trudeau campaigned in Halifax before heading to Fredericton. His message today was focused on Liberal promises on childcare and healthcare and climate change. And once again today, Trudeau spent most of his time attacking Conservative leader Erin O'Toole.
The contrast is clear with Mr. O'Toole, who wants to go back to Mr. Harper's targets, even though we've already set more ambitious targets within the Paris Agreement. Even though we're on track to largely passing Mr. Harper's targets already, he wants to bring us back to that.
Trudeau is also facing criticism for imploring Canadians to follow pandemic rules. He's now accused of ignoring them himself. More than 400 supporters gathered at an indoor campaign event in Brampton, Ontario Tuesday night that included 87-year-old former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien and 100-year-old Hazel McCallion, the former mayor of Mississauga. Trudeau insists the rally followed local health rules, but the images clearly show supporters in close quarters. Trudeau turned aside the optics to focus on vaccination.
We need to recognize that close to 80% of Canadians have done the right thing, gotten themselves vaccinated, those who are eligible. And that means that for those people, being able to come back to doing the things we love is more and more of a possibility.
Conservative leader Erin O'Toole campaigned in Saguenay, Quebec. O'Toole restated his contract for Quebec, a promise to respect provincial jurisdiction in language, health, and immigration. And he ramped up his attacks on Justin Trudeau, urging voters to punish him for calling the election during the pandemic. And he slammed Trudeau for that campaign rally in Brampton.
Justin Trudeau held an event in a packed room in contempt of common sense and social distancing guidelines. That's Justin Trudeau, the man who lectures you about the rules he isn't willing to follow himself. As I said, always looking out for number one.
O'Toole is also trying to counter efforts by his opponents to invoke former Prime Minister Stephen Harper to warn Canadians against a return to the Conservatives. O'Toole says he's working hard to move the party to the middle and had this appeal to moderate voters.
If you are tired of being ignored, tired of being taken for granted, told you shouldn't be proud to be Canadian, your only option is to vote Conservative. If you're worried about Mr. Trudeau's reckless spending, his massive debt, and rising prices, your only option is to vote Conservative. If you are tired of a Prime Minister always under investigation, always breaking the rules, covering things up, and never keeping his word, you need to vote Conservative.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh campaigned again in Essex County near Windsor, Ontario. Singh returned to his promise to eliminate profit in the care of elderly Canadians, saying he's the only leader who will deliver on that promise. Singh is also fully aware that the Liberal strategy in the dying days of the campaign is to go after NDP supporters to try to stop Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives. His message to supporters:
it costs you too much. It's not a free vote. It's not even a strategic vote. It costs you too much to vote for the Liberals. We're saying if you want someone on your side, if you want someone who's going to fight for you, who's going to stand up to the powerful, to the ultra-rich, it's New Democrats.
But Singh is also facing questions today about two NDP candidates, one in Toronto and one in Nova Scotia, who resigned because of past social media comments viewed by many as anti-Semitic. Singh called their online messages unacceptable, but was pressed on why they were allowed to resign from the campaign instead of being dumped by the party.
Vetting in general is tricky, given the change in times where people have different platforms now, and sometimes these platforms can go back for years and years. So it is more of a challenge to vet candidates. It is something that we're constantly working on improving and working on finding better ways to do. It is a challenge, and it's fair to say that we will always find ways to try to improve our process and do a better job of it.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet campaigned along Montreal's South Shore. On the likelihood of a minority government, Blanchet would not express a preference between Liberals or Conservatives, but he did lament the divide between Quebec and the rest of Canada over language and culture.
We should stop once and for all to start our discussions by the fact that the Quebec nation is in any way racist or whatever like that. We are not. We are perhaps the most welcoming community in North America, and we are proud of that.
And Green Party leader Annamie Paul campaigned in Kitchener, Ontario, again making the case for the election of Greens.
We bring the possibility of a change in the culture. We bring the possibility of working across party lines in the way that we need to if we are going to tackle the biggest challenges that we have in the time that we have to do it.
And that's the kind of day it's been. Day 32 of the campaign, just 4 days to go.